Well, hello, listeners, and welcome to Connecting the Dots with DelRo. I am your lovely host, Dylan Del Rosso, aka DelRo, and I am here to help showcase the power of networking, both professionally and personally. On this podcast, myself and my incredible guests will share our stories on how the art of connecting has shaped our lives and careers. We'll share our successes, failures, embarrassments, tips and tricks, once-in-a-lifetime opportunities, and much more. What I'm getting at here is we're all here to connect with each other, genuinely. Doesn't sound that bad, right? Well, listen, you'll be hearing plenty of me, so let's get to it. Welcome to the show.
Welcome, everyone. As you just heard on the intro, I'm your host, Dylan Del Rosso, aka DelRo, and today on Connecting the Dots with DelRo, I'm joined by the lovely Luciane Serifovic. Luciane is the founder and CEO of Luxian International Realty, and I am lucky enough to have Luciane as the first guest on this podcast series of mine. So, Luciane, thanks so much for coming on the show. How are you?
I am doing great, and I am so honored that I am the first. Very excited to be here for you, and I know this podcast is going to be a great success.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. I wouldn't have had it any other way. You know, I do have a short list of other guests, but if we're ranking, there was no question. You had to be number one. So we're off to a hot start here. So, Luciane, what I'd love to do is, for the listeners, the first-time listeners, aka everybody, I'd like to tell them a little bit more about you. So I've had the pleasure of recently developing a great relationship with you over the last month and a half. And so you've been kind enough to share your story with me. And I'd like to give our listeners a little bit of a background on your story and how you got here. So would you mind telling us a little bit more about you and your journey?
Absolutely. Well, I'm very lucky today to be the CEO and founder of the first virtual luxury real estate company based here out of New York. But my story is an interesting one and is a classic immigrant story. I came to the United States when I was 18 years old. I was completely broke, didn't know how to speak a word of English, and had the, hustle and drive to really climb the ladder in the corporate environment into a point of learning enough and feeling confident enough to be an entrepreneur. So it's been a 18-year journey that is up and down and tears of anger and also joy. But I'm very, very fortunate, and I'm so grateful to have you and your platform to share with everyone some of those obstacles and some life lessons that I think someone else listening today can take and hopefully also have their success.
Well, that's amazing. And I'll tell you, it's so funny because, when we first spoke, what's so interesting, I'm coming from the sales background, right? My whole hook, I think a major reason as to why I have this job that I have currently is because of my networking efforts, right? And my ability to reach out to people. That was just, I got people interested enough to respond back to me. And over the last 4 years, that's what I've perfected. And now I was given this vice president title, right? And definitely looks good on the business card. But
feels good too.
Yeah. So, what happened is my LinkedIn inbox, because that's where I survive. That's where I exist, is on LinkedIn. That's kind of my dojo. But my inbox started filling up with now it was the other way around. I was chasing the VPs and the CEOs for 4 years. And now I got this VP title. So my inbox is flooding. Now, I told you when we met, I refused when this whole pandemic hit and I started this networking journey of mine in March. I refused to turn down a phone call. And I have yet to do so. And I jokingly say a majority of the people I've connected with have been absolutely fantastic, you being toward the top of that list. But there's some doozies. There's still some cold calls essentially that I'm receiving. But my point is, you reached out to me and you wanted to connect because you had saw that I had connections in sports and entertainment. So tell me a little bit as to why you wanted to reach out and your background in sports and entertainment.
Yeah. So my company, I wanted to be different, right? Because I've been in real estate for 18 years and because I work with major organizations that are, the top 5 in the country, I've been in a very large corporate environment where I saw what was good and what was bad.
Mm-hmm.
And I also know what my competition is. So in order for me to be able to thrive and be different, I needed to be able to create something that no one else has ever created before. What really inspired me to have a virtual real estate company was because I was managing 3 offices with 360 real estate agents. And out of 360 agent desk, I would say we had about 10% of the office occupied most of the time. So I call it, was the office for the flies, really, because no one was there.
Yeah.
So seeing the P&L and the amount of money that companies were spending, one was real estate, 2 was staff. And staff, it's something definitely you want to be able to hire the most qualified that's going to be able to help you grow the company. But real estate, I just saw that it was a waste because the top producing agents, really, they're out and they're selling and they're networking, they're building relationships, they're out meeting with clients. So it was a waste of money. So that's how I decided to be able to have the company as the first virtual real estate company. I also wanted to be elite, but not just a luxury real estate company like everyone else is. And I wanted to really be handling clients that are high net worth individuals. So I figured, who are the high net worth individuals? Sports entertainment, not always, but the top of the tier of high net worth. Typically, they are somehow involved with sports and entertainment. And coincidentally, because I was a bodybuilder professionally.
Incredible. A whole nother story, right?
I know, right? That's a whole story in itself. I mean, it's just amazing. But one thing I've learned is this: having the discipline to be a bodybuilder, it could be translated in anything else. So I've learned a lot with that also. But because I did bodybuilding professionally, I was recruited by an A-list celebrity. And this person, I have an NDA, so I can't share who it is. And that typically happens in the sports entertainment world. I can't share. But basically, that person wanted to hire me to work for him on building a chain of new gyms, very high-end gyms. And I said, look, with all due respect, I really appreciate the opportunity, but my passion is real estate. Fitness is just my hobby. I didn't want to be I love to go to the gym, but that's my, mental health.
That's your yoga. That's your escape, right?
That's my escape. That's the right word for it, right? But he basically said to me, okay, so he met with me in the celebrity van with the driver for 20 minutes and said, can you meet me in Beverly Hills in 2 days? So I dropped everything, went to stay at the Bel Air, went to meet with him, and realized it was very, very, like, I had to go through security, and then I couldn't be seen by anyone. It was like everything was very, very secretive, and I had to go through this extraordinary experience with drivers and to be able to meet with this person. But I realized something. He is a human being just like anybody else.
Yes.
Okay. But most importantly, he needs more, because his life was so private. He needs someone that is extremely trustworthy and is someone that he can trust, and who has his back. Right. And basically my entire life being in the real estate industry, that was also my mission, was always to do the right thing, to have integrity, to be confidential, to gain someone's trust. So I said, if I want to be an elite company, and if I want to set myself apart from everybody else, I already have the integrity. So I just need to make sure that that's going to be my focus. And when you focus on something and you tell people what your mission is, then everybody wants to help you. It's just amazing, because a lot of people think, oh, I know everybody's out for themselves. But Yeah, to some extent, everybody's out there because they want to make money, because that's how we make a living, right? So that's how
Right.
we live. However, there's a lot of people out there that they want to help. And what goes around comes around. So when you share with people what your mission is, so long story short, I met with that person and I completely shifted my business model from being a luxury virtual real estate company to being a virtual luxury real estate company, primarily focused on sports and entertainment, because I realized he has a need. He has a need. And what I also understood once I met him was 70%, between 60 and 70% of sports and entertainment clients lose everything.
Yeah,
They just
that's
go
nuts.
completely broke. And I wanted to make this into a mission that if somebody is at the peak of their life, and typically is when they're playing or they're, just performed, the best movie or the best whatever, they come into a whole lot of money and everybody's putting their hand in their pocket. So I
Yeah.
want to be able to educate those people to be careful and to put the money where they're going to get the best return. So one day when they look back, they have a great life after the game or after
Yeah.
the game, because none of
Totally.
us, the 15-minute fame or, and a lot of the players, especially in the sports world, they really only have a 5-year run.
That's like a great accomplishment to make it 5 years. It's like so many don't, most don't. So you're right. It's wild. And I think it's an interesting, once you get to know some of these players and alumni, former players, now business owners, or what influencers to brands, you get to know them and you recognize that the more famous you get, and I'm not famous yet, but the more famous you get, it only gets harder to manage. It's just, it's impossible. That's where people like yourself step in and try and take a big weight off their shoulders, right? Real estate, where they're going to live, where their family's going to be. You take that and you say, let's settle this issue for you and let's get that off your plate. That way you can manage everything else in your life, right? And so that's incredible.
Unfortunately, there are a lot of leeches out there.
Yeah.
Sucking everything, especially once you have made a name for yourself. So there has to be companies and individuals that really are there to protect their best interests. And it's very hard to find. And look, for the first 6 months when I opened my company, I was like, oh my God, like dealing with these agents that are like unprofessional, not reputable, unethical. And I said, oh, do I really want to do this? But then what I realized was, wait a minute, that's when I need to exist the most.
Right. Yeah.
Because there's not a lot of them. There's not a lot of us that really genuinely care about people. I've lost deals because it wasn't the best thing for the client. But you know what? That's a client that I have for the rest of my life. And the amount of referrals I get from those people are endless because they know I'm not doing this because of the money.
Right. Well, that's excellent. And I think you can tell so much about how somebody conducts their business just by hearing them and their story, right? Like Luciane, to be honest, me and you only met a month and a half ago. I only have so much knowledge possible for me to consume about you and your business. However, I know certainly that you're running an excellent business, and the people you're working with and your affiliations and your vendors and everybody else in your circle, it has to be bulletproof because you would have it no other way. And that's certainly what I'm trying to build. And so that's why I'm so fortunate. And that's why you're here as a guest on my podcast. So what I wanted to do, Luciane, if you're up for it, before we get into the good stuff, right? And the good stuff being me and you showcasing the power of networking, right? And I want to do that by you telling your stories and asking you some questions. And me and you talked about this before recording the episode today is I think the angle I want to have throughout this series is stripping back the whole concept of it. First of all, it's difficult to do business. It's really difficult to do business in a major city, especially New York, especially in 2020, in the pandemic, when nobody's got money and the odds are stacked against everybody, right? My point is, I want to try and peel back some not so difficult conversations that people can have if they just pick up the phone and have this give first mentality that me and you have, right? And I know that me and you are going to have a long, fruitful relationship, and both in business, personally. It's going to be a blast because we're on the same page. We're here for the same reason. So before we get into all that good stuff, I want to ask you some icebreakers. We can kind of do like rapid fire, and there's nothing crazy in here. If you want to pass, just pass. But I want to ask you a couple questions just so the audience can get familiar with maybe who you are as a person. So are you ready for that?
I love surprises. Bring it on.
All right. I'm just going to keep firing at you. Favorite restaurant anywhere in the world?
Gramercy Tavern.
Where is it?
It's near Union Square, Gramercy. It's in Gramercy area in Manhattan.
Okay, what kind of cuisine? Just curious, because I got to get there now.
It's a good question. I think it's American, a modern American.
It's almost better when you don't know, whatever. It's just good.
You know what it is? It's not only about the food, it's also about the experience.
There you go. All right, well, I'm sold.
It was one of the first restaurants that they changed my fork at every meal.
All right. See, I haven't reached that level yet. I need a 4-fork meal coming my way.
Here's the thing. Like if you go to Danielle's, it's like 4 times the price.
Yeah.
And the food isn't as good as Gramercy Tavern. So you're getting like the 5-star experience. I just love that place, the food.
All right. Free ad for that spot right there. Maybe next season there'll be a sponsor. So favorite movie?
Oh my God.
And if you can't pinpoint one.
Yeah, my favorite movie is, I don't know the exact name, but Denzel Washington, his son was dying.
Is it Dr. Q?
Yes.
Wow. All right. I tell everybody, for you guys listening in camera B here, I tell everybody I'm a movie buff. Meanwhile, I haven't seen some of the big ones. Like I haven't seen the biggest movies there are to see. I probably haven't seen it, but I used to go to the movies every Friday. So Dr. Q, and his son gets a heart transplant from somebody who got in a car accident, right?
Like, he became like a bad guy to save his son's life.
And he held up the hospital to make sure. Incredible movie. I wear my heart on my sleeve. I cried so hard watching. I just know because I cry watching The Voice and AGT. My wife, Becky, teases me because, somebody will come on The Voice, and not to get too off track here, but, it'll be a compelling backstory and the father's there on side stage and he's just, forget it. I lose it. I sit there. And she's just like, you're such a baby. I'm like, why? Because I'm emotional. Anyway, a couple more really quick. You choose either the first concert you've ever been to or the best concert you've ever been to. Whichever one you think is cooler.
I haven't been to that many, believe it or not. Maybe like
unbelievable.
10. Maybe 10. Really, Guns N' Roses.
Oh, great answer.
You know why it's so special? Because I really wanted to go when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
When he was at the peak of his career.
Totally.
And my parents would not let me go because of the drugs and the rock and roll. So I was like 13. They wouldn't let me go. So my entire life, I wish I have gone to his concert. So when I got older, he came back and I went to see him in the city. I was like 7 months pregnant and my daughter kept rolling inside my stomach because the noise, the music was so loud. You could see she was so uncomfortable. And I remember I was like, oh my gosh, she's going to pop out of my belly.
Unbelievable.
But it was like my favorite because I waited for like a decade for it.
You were the only sober person in that concert.
Probably.
Yeah. So you really were the only one to get the full experience that night. Good for you. All right, 2 more quick ones. Do you have any sports affiliations that you'd like to come clean about? Do you have a favorite football team or basketball team or baseball or anything?
Whoever is my current client.
Yes, there you go.
That's who
okay.
I'm cheering for.
Whoever pays the bills.
No, I just can't because I work with so many of them. I cannot just have one.
Okay, gotcha. All right, fair.
I could say that my first sports client was from the Mets.
Oh, okay. So
there's definitely a special place in my heart for that.
There's definitely going to be a lot of Mets fans listening to this, probably more, just as many or more Yankee fans, which I'm a Yankee guy. But okay, very cool. And a great, safe answer there, and an honest one. All right. You can choose. I would either want to ask you what the perfect Friday or Saturday night looks like for you, or total opposite question, favorite subject in school.
Maybe a Friday.
Okay, give it to me. What's the best?
I'm not a big fan of school.
All right, see, you had your choice. Give me your best Friday. Give me your favorite Friday night.
Going out for dinner with my family.
Excellent.
Just having like the family. Hey, what was your week like? I would say that would be like my favorite, but that has to be backed up by maybe one Friday every month with the girlfriends.
There you go. Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, good. All right. Well, thank you. You did well. Rapid fire icebreakers are done. So let's get into the quote unquote good stuff. So what I want to do is just ask you kind of a couple questions and hear some of your experiences. And because when I thought about starting a podcast, I have all these nightmare stories, awesome stories from business and sales meetings and events and, horrible emails to mistakes and brutal voicemails. I'd love to peel back a little bit. So answer this for me. What was the biggest meeting or call you've ever had? And, you can share details if you like, it doesn't matter. But what I'm trying to do is kind of tap into like the emotional side of the question. Like, how'd you feel going in and coming out, the nerves? Because I'm just on a roller coaster constantly when I'm in those positions. So if any come to mind.
Yes. So the one that I mentioned before, I think it was a pivotal meeting. The person is worth, hundreds of millions. The one that I went to Beverly Hills, and I'm sitting in office of someone that is one of the most famous person in the world.
Insane.
But what's interesting, looking back, I was such a boss. So basically so this person, remember, they wanted to hire me to work with that person, but I realized that this was an opportunity. So I pivoted, and then I shifted my entire company to be completely catered to him. Okay. Mm-hmm. So that's why my company is what it is today, because of that meeting. That's why it was such a pivotal, important meeting. And I just remember thinking, holy crap, like the pictures of who was there. Oh my God. Anyway, so I actually asked him to invest in my company.
Okay.
And he basically said to me, well, if your company was going to be the next Amazon, then I would be interested, because I only have 24 hours in a day. But because it's not the next Amazon, I have 30 other companies I'm focused on. I just don't have the time.
Right.
So he didn't invest in my company, but we still have a great relationship. And he's actually the inspiration for all the other clients and my entire business model. So I'm grateful for that.
Excellent. Well, that's so cool. And I think back to some big meetings I had when I was working with the Jets, or, some of the stuff even in my earlier days at the University of Maryland with like some big donors and, going on these meetings, and you go in, and I'm so happy you said, looking back, I handled it like a boss, because, for me, and my shtick, I'm like this goofy, kind of no filter, whimsical, who knows what's going to come out of my mouth kind of thing. But I kind of, realistically, I like to say that, like, I shoot from the hip, right? And you just got to do that. You just got to connect. If I go into this sales meeting and I think like, all right, here's what I'm pitching this guy, right? If he says this, I'm going to say this, that I get locked up. I've done that too, and it's brutal. But, I just go in and I connect, and you let them talk about themselves, and you find places, the hot buttons, all that stuff. Very cool. And, coming out of those meetings.
Yeah. And when you're when you're very authentic.
Yeah.
And you're genuine, that's when it works. And sometimes, like, the beginning of the conversation, like the icebreaker, is what makes the deal.
Totally. And people want to work with those who they like. They want to spend time with the people they like. So a lot of our time spent, is on work. And so, you want to be surrounding yourselves, A, with people you trust, B, with people who have your back and are going to be keeping you top of mind. So yeah, excellent. And, coming out of those meetings, it's like such a rush. Like, I don't know, like just thinking about it, I just remember like elevator rides down like 30 floors in Manhattan. And meanwhile, I'm in like my Kohl's, like my one suit from Kohl's that my mom got me. Shout out, Carol. But I felt like $1 million coming out of there. And that's sometimes all you need, right? Like, I think the most successful meeting I had mentally for me as a professional was like not somebody I ever had as a client or even somebody I had a second meeting with, but I came out of there and I was like, I feel like $1 million. If they're saying no, it's not because of me or my product or anything. So I don't know.
It's just those meetings, I think, it's an achievement in itself.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so,
by the way, when I went to that meeting, I also went to an exclusive celebrity event. Was only celebrity there because that's the only time he was able to meet with me. So I was behind the scenes while he's being interviewed. So in addition,
oh my God.
In addition, when the meeting was over, then he offered me to go on his private plane to go to another state. Okay. So it was like a whole, an experience in itself. And me being the boss, like just, faking it until you make it kind of.
I love it.
I appreciate the offer to go on your private plane, but no, thank you. I have other commitments. So I turned it down.
That's the best. That's the best part. So excellent. I can't get the smile off my face. I'm just picturing that. On the other side of the coin, you can choose to spare details here if you want. But my short professional career of 4 years and change is filled with these. And that would be your biggest flop. Do you remember your biggest flop, whether it be like a sales meeting you went on, a property you wanted to sell that you just, do you have any flops that come to mind that are worth sharing? If you do, I can share some of mine as well.
Yeah, I remember there was a client that every single property he had available for rent or for sale, he always came to me. But it just happened that one particular property, I don't remember if maybe he was pricing it too high or something was happening that we were having a conversation and I was supposed to get back to him. So I called him and I left him a message and I hung up and I just started cursing him out. When I hung up, I'm like, this effing guy, whatever. And when I looked, the phone was not completely off. I never hung up.
Unbelievable. So
I looked at the phone and said, oh my God, I didn't know what to do. So I hung up and I just prayed that he didn't listen to the voicemail all the way until the end. Until today, I don't know if he did. I don't think he did because we're still do business together.
Nice.
I actually I almost sold him an 11-unit building like 5 years later. So I don't think he heard the voicemail to the end, but just I remember vividly making that mistake.
Oh my.
And I never again, like every time I hang up the phone, I always triple check that I pressed the off button, that it's completely off. And then I also hung up all the way.
Oh my, I have friends, like I was just this weekend, I was sitting down with friends and, we're talking and people's names come up and it's not that it's malicious or anything, but like I have a friend who will be like, oh, check your phone. You're not on the phone with anybody, right? Like check your phone, like make sure they're not on the phone. I'm like, it happens. In a similar story, I want to share with you. So this happened when I was working at the University of Maryland. I was living down in DC. So I went to a small school, Misericordia University, in the middle of nowhere. So when I got my first job at 21 at the University of Maryland in College Park, that was the best thing ever. And I worked there for 3 years. So I felt like I went to college for 7 years. It was awesome. But I developed some unbelievable relationships with Terp season ticket holders and donors. And there's one guy in particular, and I'll say his name because his name was Michael Jackson. And I'll try and speed this up. This happened. We were such good buddies, and he loved me, and trust me, I had his cell phone number. So it was St. Patty's Day a couple years ago, and I'm out with all my buddies in DC. I got a really good buddy by the name of Michael. And I'm a big user of Siri. Do you have an iPhone?
Of course.
Yeah. So
that thing.
Siri works for me part-time. I use it for everything. So I use it to call I'm pretty loaded at this point. These were my younger years, early 20s. Now I'm in my mid 20s, but whatever, a whole lifetime ago. And I call Mike and I'm like, Siri, call Mike Stover. Thanks, Mike Stover. He's going to listen to this. And it didn't call Mike Stover. Siri called Michael Jackson. Now I'm worried that Siri's even going to be listening to me now while this is happening. And didn't answer, rang through. I left a voicemail to my good buddy, my drinking buddy. I'm like, Mike, you cursing, where are you? What's going on? Get here. I told you we were here. You're late, like just completely busting his balls. And I hung up. And it didn't even occur to me until like an hour later that I left that voicemail to this client of mine at Maryland. And he didn't answer. The only reason he didn't answer is because he was in court he's not for himself as a representative of somebody. And he called me back and we talked that next day, and I texted him. I was like, man, I'm so horrified. I'm so sorry. I hope you understand. I just faced it because I had no way around it. So he called me like the next night. I was like, working out, like so nervous about the whole thing. And he calls me, he's like, Dillon, listen, I was 22 once, man. Like, no sweat. You were having a good time. I'm just happy you're safe. Your friends are safe. I'm like, I think I believe in a few things, sales karma and like just treating people well, right? Me and this Michael Jackson guy had the best relationship. Even what I did was so insane, but it was
for him.
If it wasn't for my relationship with him and him being an incredible, awesome, very forgiving guy that day, I probably still have his phone number saved. I might give him a call. Anyway, thanks for sharing. So here's another question for you. What point in your career did you really start to value networking and like start to reap the benefits of it? And Luciane, I don't know if you referred to networking in the same definition I do. It seems like nowadays people have different words for it, and networking may even in some circles have like a negative connotation to it. I don't know why, but anyway, when did you realize in your career that networking was going to be really important for you?
Surprisingly, I think there's a difference between networking and effectively networking.
Very, very fair.
I've been networking for 18 years, right? So I'm constantly going to events, meeting people, going to meetings. But until about, I think 3-4 years ago, I realized the effective way to network. And let me just tell you the difference. When I was networking and I would meet people, I had a pitch. And I was very focused on the business. And I would ask the person about their business. I would tell them about my business. And that was honestly like 15 years of waste. Because what I realized is that you have to genuinely be interested in them as individuals and building a personal relationship. And look, there will be people that will not open up to you because that's just who they are. Right. And it's not going to be the same for everybody. But the day that I realized that I was not there as a business, I was there as a human being who was making friends for a living, that's when everything changed.
Totally. I could not relate more. When I joined the New York Jets in that chapter of my career, which only just ended and I'm into my new career only like a month and a half ago. But when I was at the Jets and now I'm selling B2B out of nowhere, never did that before. And instead of making 120 phone calls, it was go on 5-6 meetings in the city this week. We don't even want to see you in the office. And so that was networking, and I was sitting in people's offices, but you have that sales goal attached to you. In the back of your mind, you're going to be, people like me and you talk about the 15 years you were doing that. We're great salespeople regardless, right? I don't know that I'm great yet. I like to talk things into existence. But my point is that it wasn't until I didn't have anything to sell in March when this pandemic hit, right? That's when the networking that I thought I'd been doing all along, it wasn't that I was reaching out to more people or that I was more or less focused. It's just overnight, I no longer had suites to sell for the Jets. So it was just me. I led with myself and with a curiosity just to connect with anybody and everybody with a story and a journey. And I knew that if I talked to enough of these people with that mindset in a short enough amount of time, I'm going to just be connecting the dots. Promo, name of the show. I'm going to be connecting the dots all over the place because that's what I can do. I was able to chat with enough people in enough industries to where I was immediately of value to people. And I had nothing to sell them. I had a job. They didn't want to. It was just, let's keep answering DelRo's calls because it went from 30 minutes on their calendar with some guy from the Jets because they were too nice to say no to 30 minutes later, they're talking about themselves for 30 minutes, how awesome they are, how great their business is, little Tommy's Little League game last week. And also they end up with 3 or 4 referrals on their desk in their Zoom chat. And they were like, what was that? Where did that come from? And I'm just, people immediately are like, okay, well, we can get up another phone call. We can make some time for a second call with this guy. He's not asking for anything in return. Why wouldn't you? And so you only have to do that for so long with the right people to where it got me a job. It got me a brand new career. It gave me the ability to be a full-time networker, connector, the ability to start this podcast, work on a side business. Like, I think I have it all right now. And that's insane, but it's only because I know what I'm capable of now and helping people like you and getting your story out there and your business. I mean, it's a no-brainer, and I'm having the time of my life doing it. So thanks for sharing about that. And I couldn't have had a more familiar story. It's just flip the switch. It's like, just do it because it's the right thing to do because you want to. And actually, Luciane, I want to know if, I'm sure you've developed a relationship as a mentor to a ton of people over your career. And I've just started doing this the last few years. And some advice that I give to these people is go talk to 5 strangers this week and just talk about them, talk about themselves, tell your story, see where you guys connect, and do that for 3 weeks. And you're going to have people who are excited to talk to you, want to introduce you to other people, and business is going to happen, What's some advice you would give to a college student watching this right now, entering into this incredibly unpredictable workforce, right? What kind of advice would you give to somebody right now from a networking side of things? How to go about it, how to connect?
Well, there's a few things that come to my mind immediately. I think the first thing is with anything you do, always try to exceed expectations, right?
Mm-hmm.
The reason why I was able to climb the corporate ladder, I was terrible with politics, but I outworked my competition.
Yeah.
And I also exceeded expectations. So if you constantly, with every position you have, if your job responsibility is very clear to you, you can exceed it. And I think that's where most people make a mistake. They may have a job somewhere, or they may be working with a client, but they don't know what their expectation is.
Right. That's a really good point.
Yeah. So if you're working somewhere, okay, what do they expect from you? What would success look like as an employee of that firm. What are the hours they expected to work? What are the results and the outcome they're expecting from you? Because if you know they expected to be in the office from 9 to 5, work 5 days a week, and they expected to produce $1 million in like revenue,
Yeah.
you know what you're working towards. So guess what? If you come in and you're there at the hours they are expecting you to be, and then you're producing a $1.5 million, you've exceeded expectation.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think that's the best way to go, exceeding expectation with everything you do, and always be proactive. Like the way I was able to grow in a corporate environment also was I would be inundated with work. I was working crazy hours, but I would go to my boss and say, hey, what else can I do to make your life easier? With that
Right.
deposit mentality of constantly giving, giving, giving. And it got me promoted. I still had to ask for promotion because unfortunately, reality is that women,
Hmm.
unfortunately, are not always offered those opportunities.
You're right.
So I asked, but I asked, but I also earned it.
Totally. That's incredible. And I think, and when you shared your story with me a couple months ago, there's a certain aspect to it of not taking no for an answer either, right? It's like, listen, nowadays everybody wants the same job, the same, sexy job in the city or whatever it is. And guess what? A lot of them are just as good or better than you at what you will, for that same job. That was a mouthful. Anyway,
And
my point is,
also the positions that I've had, every single one of them, I didn't qualify.
absolutely. I feel the same way.
On paper, I never qualified, but guess what? I had the drive and the enthusiasm, more, I mean, on steroids compared to anybody else.
Absolutely. And, you told me a bit of your story about at the beginning of your career in real estate, coming here and not taking no for an answer. Somebody was going to hire you and you weren't going to have it any other way. And, number of years later.
So the guy who I was supposed to have the first position, and the funny thing is that to be in real estate, you just need a pulse.
Yeah.
They usually hire anybody because everybody's on commission only. But I still couldn't get a job because I didn't speak English and knew no one. I didn't even know the subways. And this guy just wouldn't even respond to me. He was just not interested. I called him and I followed up with him until he just said, fine, I'll give you a chance. And I think in a way that's very similar with any clients. You just have to follow up until they tell you to stop or they die.
Yeah, no, I
totally
agree. No, that's a really great take. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about, I think so much of what the success that I've had in my short career is me recognizing what I'm good at and trying to put myself in a position to where I can focus on those strengths while also giving myself time to develop my weaknesses, right? So I think I know my strengths and weaknesses pretty well. Do you know what you're best at in business and also what you struggle with? Do you have those two things kind of on the polar opposites?
Absolutely. My strength is people, right?
Yeah, me too.
My strength is marketing because
Great.
I was very aware of brands and I've worked with enough brands to kind of see the difference and what they do differently and what sets them apart, and also and what would hurt a brand. So I've learned a lot over the years on how to build a brand and how to get people to pay attention. And
Totally.
you have to be bold for sure. You can't just be average, otherwise nobody pays attention to you.
Totally.
And you can do that effectively with marketing. So that's my strength, I believe, and caring about people, I think, is also a strength. And my weakness is I don't like looking at numbers. I can only do it for so long, and it's inevitable, and I have to look at numbers being a business owner, but I dread it. I do it, but I hate it. And it's funny because one small job I had in between real estate careers, right? So I'm in real estate all 18 years of my career.
Yeah.
But out of 18 years, there were 2 weeks that I worked for a real estate developer that was a mega company. And the company, I remember sitting in a conference room overlooking at Central Park at their like 30-seat conference room. And I remember pinching myself for having that VP position.
Yeah.
But I hated it.
Yeah.
They didn't clearly tell me what the position was, and the position was looking at numbers all day long.
Brutal.
I couldn't sleep. I would wake up. I was just miserable. I didn't want to go to work. I just had to look at numbers all day long and just, was creating reports, and it was just the worst fit. And I only lasted 2 weeks there. But you know what? It happened for a reason. He helped me transition from one real estate company to another. So I had no problems with lawsuits, because one thing that happens in real estate is you have non-competes.
Yeah,
so
everywhere.
You're not allowed to go from one company to the other. But because of that stint, I didn't have that problem.
There you go. Almost worked. That works.
It worked out perfect.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, I can relate. I think my strength is people, right? And connecting people and, it's crazy as this sounds. I think my biggest strength is like caring. Like I care about most people. Like you got to really give me a reason not to care about like trying to help you and those people exist. But no, definitely one of my strengths. My weakness, I have, and any of my bosses over the years could tell you, organizing my time. I'm just doing a million things at once. And lately with this pandemic in 2020 and working remotely, I'm just networking. I'm going on 7 blind dates a day. So I live in this Zoom box and 30-minute windows. And it's just, I hit the reset button, 10, 10:30, 11. And so I try to give everything I have into every conversation. So I'm not really taking great notes, but then I'll have 4 conversations by the time, and I'll be like lost half of my, and so I got to get better. So for anybody who has any advice, send it this way. So a couple other things. And this was like one of my favorite questions when writing this up, because I don't know, I just like having a good time. But what in business gets you the most fired up? Like what gets your blood pumping? Like can't stop walking around your living room that night, whatever it is. I'll share kind of what gets me going, but I'd love to hear from you.
Whenever I'm building something.
Yeah, that's fun.
I am building something, but also there are 2 things. One is building. I always have to be working towards something.
Right.
And that's why working for a very established company that is happy where they are, would never work for me. And I've been in those positions because I always need to be working on making something better. And I'm really good at it, right?
Yeah.
So owning my own company is perfect because there's plenty of things that I have to do and to work on and constantly build. So like today I had a call with a web developer that I'm developing an app for my company. And like, I can't wait to talk to him about the ideas on making the company better and the customer experience, the agent experience. So that's been what excites me the most. But also when I help somebody is another. Like I just helped somebody sell an apartment that they tried to sell with another agent for 7 months and the agent couldn't do it. And so I couldn't go to the closing because of COVID. You're not allowed to go to the closing. So the feeling, I dropped off a gift at their building and I wanted to go personally. I didn't want a messenger to go. And I brought them flowers and a personalized gift with a handwritten note. And going through that experience of knowing that I've successfully helped them, because everyone needs help with their real estate needs, but being able to successfully do it at that from start to finish is just such a rewarding experience to do it effectively.
Totally. I have to say, what a great answer, because I'm just starting the whole building something, right? Whether it be this podcast, this business I'm working on with my brother and good friend, you're right. I can't stop thinking about it. And guess what? It sucks that my office is in my apartment because work doesn't stop. It's just, if I leave that laptop open, I'm going to go back to it and I'm going to keep working on something. But you're totally right. And for me, another one was obviously having such a passion for connecting and networking. When I introduce two people to each other and they do business together, like they have a great relationship, great conversation. I'm pumped. My dad's probably hearing about it at 5:30 like that day. But if I hear that those two people did business together, not even with me, I'm not even cashing a check. But if those two, partnered up or did, I'm so fired up. I'm like, damn, I made that happen. I take full credit for it at the end, right? It's like, it's like being a matchmaker. I'm sure you have friends who you were like, I introduced you to him or her.
Yeah, that actually happened recently. A friend of mine was trying to buy a home, but he's an entrepreneur and he owns like 4 other homes. So it was almost like an impossible thing based on his tax returns. And he talked like 5 bankers that couldn't lend. And I said, I got you. And I got him a lender.
Wow.
He's going through the process of buying something right now that no other bank will lend.
See,
so he was like, I can't believe it. I referred already 7 other people to that same lender. So now that lender is like loving me because I helped him. I'm not making any money either, but I totally can understand and appreciate being that maker.
That's excellent. And just because I feel like I have to, because it's in the spirit of the show and the whole concept here, this app that you're developing for your site, I'm positive, like I said earlier in the show, that whoever you have working for you is great. If something was to happen, I got a guy for you, so let me know.
So this company I'm working with, they were highly vetted by IBM.
Okay. You're in good hands, like I said.
Person, but you never know.
For the next app, for the next business.
I always like options.
Exactly. For the next business that you're going to find and be the CEO of, we'll work that one out. But so just to kind of, we're heading toward the end of the show here. Both exciting for me because I'm like, wow, am I shaking my legs still? Is my chair squeaky? But just a couple more things. I want to know, and again, following kind of the spirit of the show here, and hopefully all of our listeners can kind of maybe take an action step here. But who are you looking to meet next? For business, personally, just to chat. Who are you looking to connect with moving forward?
Yeah, my target audience kind of falls into pretty much anyone who is involved in the sports and entertainment industry.
Okay.
So I've been talking to a lot of entertainment attorneys. I've been talking to a lot of people in the entertainment space, regardless of what the position is, because you'll be surprised. Everyone can teach you something. And I think that's the mindset that is really important. Like I've learned things from people that had no education, that was more valuable than someone who graduated from Harvard. So every person has or knows something that you can learn from, but primarily sports agents or talent agents are, I think, a good segue to meeting the potential client.
Excellent. Well, that's good to know. I'll get to work on that. Of course, I already am. But no, good to know. And hopefully for all you listeners out there, if any of you are in sports and entertainment and need an absolutely fantastic new friend in Luciane, you better reach out or reach out to me and I'll make the intro on LinkedIn.
And then you get
and then I can, get my own celebration going on because I love connecting people. So Luciane, I want to first give you the opportunity to answer this. This is big level, deep questions, so be ready for it. What's your message to the world? What do you want these people, these excellent listeners of ours to know? What's your message? What do you want to put out there?
In terms of what, business or personal, or?
How about overall, and I didn't prep you with this question, so that's my bad, but overall, what's your message to the world, right? Like here's my inspiration for the question, just so you know, I have this, of course I'm on TikTok. I'm a sucker for TikTok. And there's an account and he asks random strangers, are you happy? and they give their answer. And then he asked them, what's your message for the world? And I loved it. So I'm stealing it. And I just want to know in general, whether it's a piece of advice you'd like to give to everybody or any message you'd like to get out there. What is it?
There's always going to be rainy days and sunny days.
Amen.
In the rainy days, just remember the sunshine is right around the corner, because life in general is a roller coaster ride. So change is always expected. Is how you react to change is what's going to set you apart. And especially during this time, I feel, although I'm a very level-headed person, I'm super optimistic. I am so blessed, have so much faith. There are days that I have to take one extra breath to remember how grateful I am. So if you're grateful, you can't be anxious. If you're grateful, you can't be afraid. So whenever in doubt, just be grateful for what you have, and the rainy days will end and the sunshine will come eventually. So
I love it.
Being an entrepreneur, it's like a roller coaster ride. One day everything is going well, the next day everything is going wrong. So you've become a very good master at that.
Yes.
I would say that's, I think, the most important thing and just appreciate what you have now, because
absolutely,
it's just, it could be all gone tomorrow. I think a lot of us, even during these times, because I think most of us know somebody that they've lost with COVID, appreciating life now. Don't wait until you have checked every box to be happy.
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much for sharing, Luciane. For more information, I'd love to get information about your business, Luxian International Realty, out there. So hopefully we have a link here or something coming on the video here or something, but we'll have your information out there. So Luciane, thank you so much for being the first guest on Connecting the Dots with DelRo. And you were absolutely amazing. I have nothing else to say. Thank you.
You are amazing too. You've nailed it. And
well, thank you.
You are connecting the dots. I am so excited for you, and we will continue to connect the dots together.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Luciane. It's been a pleasure. And thank you to the listeners as well. We'll see you guys next time.
Luciane Serifovic is the CEO and founder of Luxian International Realty. More information about Luciane and her company can be found at theluxian.com.